Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the Watchers. We are back again with a cool guest. It's been a little while since we've done an interview. If you've been paying attention to the channel, we've had some other things going on, but we wanted to get back to the basics here. And so we have a cool guest, a reschedule, someone that we actually meant to talk to last year. And without further ado, I'm just going to kick it over to him real fast and just let him introduce himself to everybody.
Hey everyone, I'm Steve Rudzinski. You may have no idea who I am, or you might. But I have made a lot of movies for the past 16 years through Silver Spotlight Films. I'm probably most known for the CarousHELL series and also the Meowy/Wally series, which started with the Meowy Christmas, but has turned into a series about her owner since I wanted to let my cat retire in 2020. So with that latest one being Wally Meets Popeye. I have an online store. Everything physical is there, silverspotlightfilms.com. I have a Patreon if you don't do physical or you want to support me by not buying 18, 19 movies on Blu-ray. I get it. That's stevebuster.com, only $3 a month for my entire modern library, plus a couple of exclusives. $5 for the entire access, which is every bonus feature I've ever made and a bunch of exclusives I did for the service. And most of my stuff is on Tubi. So if you just want to try something out, check it out on Tubi. Don't use an ad blocker, please. For the love of God, let me have my 5 cents, if nothing else.
Can you give us the name of the website one more time?
Sure. The physical store is silverspotlightfilms.com.
Silverspotlightfilms.com.
And the Patreon is stevebuster.com.
Stevebuster.com. Cool. I'm going to put this in a text here.
And I can see above your shoulder there you have what appears to be a poster for CarousHELL. Am I correct?
Yes. The poster for CarousHELL 3, obviously directly inspired/stolen from Tekken 7, just because the rage and hate between Duke and Joe reminded me so much of Kazuya and Hayachi. And the entire time I was writing that sequence, I was just listening to music from Tekken.
Nice.
That's awesome. That's actually our first Tekken drop, maybe ever.
That's the first time Tekken has ever been mentioned on here.
Oh, I'm glad that I popped the Tekken cherry, but I love Tekken.
Absolutely.
So, have you always been in the Pittsburgh area, or did you kind of migrate there?
No, I've been all over. I was born in Florida. I lived in the East, like in the Jersey area. I was down in Texas for a little while, out in California I've been. Then I lived in Wheeling, West Virginia for a little bit with the plans to move to California. But then one thing led to another. I met my wife, and now I live in Pittsburgh. I've been here since 2013, though.
Oh, okay. Nice. So you're pretty close to Drew here, living in Pittsburgh. How do you like Pittsburgh?
It is a very okay average city, which I say is a good thing, but a lot of Pittsburghers get really angry at that.
Yeah.
That baby agrees.
People in Pittsburgh.
That baby has dealt with Pittsburghers.
Yeah. Pittsburghers take Pittsburgh pretty seriously.
I don't think Pittsburgh's bad. Like, I don't have many complaints about it. I love the cost of living. I love the diversity of the geographical area. I do like a lot of the people.
Sure.
But the people that have never left Pittsburgh talk about Pittsburgh as if it's New York City, and it is not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also driving in Pittsburgh sucks.
It's the absolute worst, right? The belts are
Oh my God, it's so terrible.
Bad now.
I lived in the Pittsburgh area for most of my life, and then moved to Cleveland, and it was such don't get me wrong, Cleveland's a shithole. But
I don't have anything bad to say about Cleveland.
Driving in Cleveland is a lot better than driving in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Pittsburgh is probably the third worst place I've driven.
New York, Montreal, Pittsburgh.
For me, it's Atlanta, the entire Los Angeles area.
Yeah.
And then Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Atlanta is the worst that I've ever been in. I would say second worst is Philadelphia. So that's just a Pennsylvania thing, I think, with all of the terrible road designs.
A lot of the state was made before cars were, so that's really what it comes down to.
That's fair.
So
I thought your microphone was your arm, Drew, and someone was behind you giving you your drink.
I do have somebody behind me. Let me but he's not. He's not sharing any drinks.
Somebody blur that baby's face out here.
um, so, did you have any movies in the can before you moved to Pittsburgh, or is that kind of? I'm terrible at math.
No, that's before I moved to Pittsburgh specifically. I did the Slasher Hunter and Everyone Must Die for sure. But like, I also did a bunch of like garbage movies when I was a teenager, like in the backyard. I did an online series called VG Spoofs, which was like a failure. But like that had 2 seasons. I did some other shorts. So like, I was doing stuff before even the Slasher Hunter, but I consider the Slasher Hunter the start of my career, the start of Silver Spotlight Films. So 2 before Pittsburgh.
Cool. Drew, it's okay if we hear the baby. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I know. I worry.
It's all good.
It's close to bedtime, so he might start to get a little louder. But so one thing that I'm always curious about when we talk to filmmakers, I'm not like a filmmaker in the same sense of, I haven't been doing it for like 16 years and pumping things out, but we've made a couple of movies, and
which is more than a lot can say. Be proud of it.
Yeah. And so I always like to kind of get into it and see, like, where does it trace for you? Because like it's always fun to like. I know that growing up, I was allowed to watch certain movies when I probably shouldn't have been allowed to watch them. And like one of the first movies that I can remember seeing ever is A Nightmare on Elm Street, or like how shocked I was as a kindergartner watching Sleepaway Camp, and that ending just kind of blew my mind as a child. And so like it's always really fun to figure out like how it starts for everybody else. So like what inspired you, because you're roughly the same age as we are, to kind of film those things that you were talking about back when you were younger, before it became like the thing.
Are you asking my inspirations? Or are you asking the trigger that made me decide to make movies?
Yeah, a little of column A and B.
Okay.
We can origin story.
Well, the first movie I ever saw at the age of 3 was A Nightmare on Elm Street, and I loved it. And it made me stop being scared of the dark and realize the monsters weren't real, but it had the side effect of making me love horror movies as my favorite genre as a child. Staying up late at night, programming the VCR to tape the USA edited versions of all of these movies, but watching them all that way. But I didn't want to do movies immediately. I was creative. I wanted to do something that was creating, but what that was kind of changed. Like the first thing was like comic books. I like comic books. I still like comic books. I wanted to kind of write for those. Then as I got older, that's when video games started to become more 3D and having stories and narratives and cutscenes. So then I kind of wanted to get into writing video games because I really liked that idea of writing something that would end up being interactive. But when I was 12, that's when I saw Army of Darkness, and that made me know I had to do movies. And I loved movies the whole time. I watched a ton of movies growing up. I still watch a ton of movies, like so many movies. But I had a not great childhood. It was a little rough, but movies were there for me. Movies made me happy. Movies made me smile. And so I kind of wanted to try doing that for other people, and it just felt right. Like I don't have any good words or explanation past I saw Army of Darkness and I knew I had to make movies.
I got Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying before we move on, I gotta know like your top 3 list of video games.
Xenogears.
Oh man, yes.
Xenoblade 2 maybe, but that's not fair because that's the second Xeno. So I'll go with Nier Automata.
Okay, yeah.
And probably Metal Gear Solid 4.
Those are all solid picks. I would put Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time as my number 1, but that's just me. But that's just because I grew up with the game. I played it so much. But those are all super solid picks, man. That's awesome. Okay,
Thank
sorry. Keep going.
For inspiration, I would say I make live action cartoons because I like live action cartoons. I always firmly said that Sam Raimi always inspired me as a director, and Bruce Campbell always inspired me as an actor. But after I was going through the commercials and several of the films again, showing them to people who had never seen them, and I always knew I got inspiration from these guys, but rewatching the films made me realize how much, and that is John R. Cherry, the director and creator of the Ernest P. Worrell character, and Jim Varney, the man who played Ernest P. Worrell. So there's a lot of Ernest and Wally Griswold especially.
So we are doing right now as just a fun aside project on our channel, where we're taking, it's called 90 of the 90s, or the 90 best movies of the 90s. And basically we're drafting a March Madness style bracket. And it's cool that you bring that up, because so much of my list is made up of like the 90s Ernest films, because those were also like incredible influences for me. So I think we're about halfway through that first drafting session, but the Ernest is definitely going to be somewhere on that list fighting, because those movies were
they're a joy.
Definitely, yeah. Everything
they're
about
just
them.
wonderful. Yeah, I love the story. I love the fact that John Cherry got Disney to give him Hollywood money to just recreate his silly, dumb commercials. They're live action cartoons. I like Looney Tunes, and that's what those movies are, except with real human beings, and I love that. Ernest Saves Christmas, tied for the best Christmas movie of all time. Ernest Scared Stupid, one of the best PG horror movies ever made, in my opinion. Like, whenever people online are like, what horror movie should I show my kids? I'm like, well, it depends on the kid, because obviously Nightmare on Elm Street, and you can relate to that. But if they can't handle that levels of violence and gore, then yeah, Ernest Scared Stupid, because it's silly, it's dumb, but there's actual scares and tension in it. So it's a good, like, starting horror film.
Yeah, I'd even go so far as to say, like, you have Ernest Goes to Camp, right? That's one of, in my opinion, one of the more fun camp movies that you don't really get anymore either. You know, that fad kind of died in the 90s as well. But really,
camp's just not like a big cultural icon anymore.
It doesn't exist. It's so much like 70s, 80s, and and in the 90s there we still had some camp movies, but sorry, we could do like a whole just Ernest thing.
I could easily do an hour discussing Ernest.
I've never seen the Ernest Scared horror movie, but I love Ernest Goes to Prison. That was always one of my favorites.
Jail, the one where they literally put Ernest into an execution electric chair. This is a children's movie, and he is terrified. Like, it is played so earnestly.
No pun intended.
And like, there's actual fear and terror that he's about to die, and then he becomes a god because, again, he's a Looney Tune. But like, John R. Cherry was crazy, man, and I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. It was the whole series. I mean, and then having Jim Varney in like the Scared Stupid one, and obviously a legend. So
yeah, I mean, he's an incredible actor, and the stuff that he could do with his face seems impossible. It's like his face was made of rubber. I don't understand it. Like, I want to play Wally's mother in a future film as an homage to Ernest's like grandma aunt character, but like, I can't get the amount of chins that Jim Varney had, and I don't know how he could do that.
And like, the guy wasn't. He was a thin dude too, but he had like all the skin like on it. Yeah, it's so wild.
Yeah, I have the headcanon that the commercials take place after the films, because if you actually watch all the commercials, there is a canon, because eventually Ernest starts talking about his wife, and he has children. One of them is Ernie Jr. That's who I want to make a movie about. I would love to make a Ernest Legacy sequel about Ernie Jr. But like, the commercials have to take place afterwards, because otherwise the movies mean that he lost his family, and that's too sad.
Yeah, you don't want to put that on him.
No.
But you bring up how it's like one of the best, if not the best, Christmas movies of all time, and something that something that you have in common, in my opinion, is you have one of a perennial Christmas film in my house, because every season I do. It started out as 25 days of Christmas horror, and then it turned into every day of the month, and then that turned into, I'll start in Thanksgiving, I'll run until Christmas, and then I end in New Year's, and I just pick themed movies throughout that whole time frame. And you have the, I believe it's Amityville Christmas. I discovered it on Tubi a few years ago, and a lot of people make a lot of movies with that Amityville tag on it because they're allowed to do it, but very few of them have captured any type of magic with it. And I really enjoy that movie, and I just wanted to give you your props since we're talking Christmas.
Thank you. Yeah, it's kind of the thing where, like, so I just got done shooting Shingles the movie, which, you know, was my biggest film at the time, still is so far. But it was a big anthology, so it was going to take a while to edit, and that was in the editor's hands at that point before I started to help edit to get it to the finish line. And so I was kind of like, oh, well, let's just, you know, dick around and hang out and just watch stuff. And that's when I realized that there were so many Amityville movies. Like, I knew that it was a title that couldn't be trademarked or copywritten because it's a real town. And I knew that there was a bunch of unofficial Amityville movies. I knew that. I didn't know that at that time there was already 44. And then I watched a few and I was like, these are, I don't want to name names, but like a lot of them are rough. I mean, if you've watched all the Amityville films, you know that many of them are rough, and that's all I'll say. And some of them aren't even the faults of the filmmakers. You know, there's a couple that are very obviously were just original horror movies that the distributor picked up and slapped Amityville on the damn box. But when I looked through the list of all of the movies, I saw that there wasn't a Christmas one yet. And I'm like, how's there 40 over 40 of these? And there's not a Christmas one yet. I have to make the first Christmas one to make sure that it's actually a Christmas film. In fact, it's not going to be a horror film at all. It's going to be a Hallmark romantic comedy with Amityville in the name, because that's really funny to me. You know, if we're doing all this other stuff with the Amityville stuff, then I'm going to do this and make fun of what this franchise has become, where you could do anything. Well, now we're actually going to do anything. It's a Hallmark rom-com except with a ghost.
That sounds awesome.
And I decided to make it the first solo adventure of Wally Griswold, who, again, he was in my Meowy films, A Meowy Christmas, A Meowy Halloween, A Meowy St. Patrick's Day, and A Meowy Christmas Vacation, which was the end of the Meowy movies. But I always kept saying, I think Wally could be my Ernest. I think I could put Wally into other adventures. Let's test that with Amityville. So I did it. I called it Amityville Christmas Vacation. I shot it in 2 days, because I knew if I didn't get it done quick, someone could beat me to the punch. Like, someone could have been in the process of making an Amityville Christmas at that exact moment with how many existed. Shot it in 2 days, spent maybe $300 on it, because it was a gag. You know, I shot it at my cinematographer's house. My wife played the ghost. I fed people, and the actors that did appear in the movie did get paid, but otherwise, I was doing everything myself. $50 of the budget went towards the Clark Griswold pajamas I was wearing in the movie, just because I wanted those pajamas. And I cut it together in like 2 weeks, released it, submitted it to the streamers, because who knows? Like, A Meowy Christmas was a weird hit on streaming that I didn't expect. Maybe this would too, because it's PG, it's Christmas. Became the best financial decision of my life. Second best, I'm sorry, Meowy Halloween still wins. But it got insane coverage. Radio stations covered it, TV stations covered it. Finally, websites like Collider, Dread Central, like the major horror websites finally covered me. None of my 5-figure original horror movies that I tried really hard on. My stupid as hell $300 2-day shoot parody of Amityville movies is finally what got me on those websites. And then it got nominated because just by coincidence, I made it at the exact right time for when the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards had a Best Amityville category. And I won. and I made legitimate horror history by being the first ever winner of an inaugural Fangoria Chainsaw Award. And so long as Wikipedia maintains that page, I will live forever in the horror community, simply because I decided to make fun of the Amityville movies because the Christmas King had to make the first Christmas entry.
Yeah, Wikipedia, don't fuck this up, guys.
Yeah, no, that's such an incredible story too, because like just like okay, so this is a gag, and then bam, you've made history.
Yeah.
And not only is it a gag, but you spent $300 on it, but it's an entertaining movie. Like I watch it. It's part of my rotation. I enjoy it. That's actually I discovered you that way. When we became friends on Facebook, I was like, oh man, that's the guy. I know him. And so that's I think we originally were scheduled sometime around Christmas, just because I was in that time, like in that mindset of the Christmas thing that I do every year. And so other
have you
than
seen
that,
Curtains for Christmas yet?
I don't think I have.
Okay, well, you need to. I'm on your show. How have you not watched everything?
Well, here's the thing. I have this child over here who's taken up most of my time. And
I mean, that's a you problem.
That is a me problem. I did find the time to introduce him to the Paganini horror yesterday. So
good.
I'll have to put that into the rotation. But
yeah, if you like horror and you like Christmas horror, Curtains for Christmas is... So Amityville Christmas Vacation was us taking on the Amityville idea and turning it into a rom-com. Curtains for Christmas is us taking a rom-com and turning it into a very R-rated, gory, bloody horror film.
Excellent.
So it's the opposite, but it's still a horror movie, it's still a Christmas movie, and it still stars me and my wife, except now the relationship is extremely different. But I think Curtains for Christmas is probably the best movie that I've made. So if you like those genres anyway, you should definitely give it a shot.
Yeah, I'll have to. Unfortunately, I have to wait until December to watch it, but I'll add it
don't be a bitch like that. No. Do you watch Halloween movies all year long, motherfucker?
Yeah, I guess. I guess you got me. You got me there.
I'm not saying you got to make it as addicted as I am, but like, come on, you can watch one.
Yeah,
it's Christmas in March, man. Come on.
I do. You know what I do? I do Christmas in July, and I start watching. I do a small amount of Christmas horror films during Christmas in July.
I watch them all year long, I swear. Like, I'm not exaggerating. Like, I don't go... Like, obviously, November to December, I'm watching only Christmas every single day. I don't do that all year. But I'm watching at least 1-2 Christmas movies a month, at least. And I usually try to find new ones that I've never heard of, like those other micro-budget or low-budget rom-coms that are just thrown on Tubi or something. Not even necessarily the Hallmark ones, because sometimes those are too corporate, because Hallmark has executives that want a very specific way of doing things. Now, I found some gems on Tubi.
I live on Tubi. It's my favorite of all of the streaming services.
I hope they never get rid of ads and start a subscription service, because that will kill Tubi. That will take away everything that makes Tubi great. And the people on Twitter do not understand that. No matter I try to explain, they think that they know more than I do.
Yeah.
And I'm a dumb idiot. But when it comes to film distribution and how streamers pay and how they can pay, I know more than they do in this Home Depot.
Yeah. And, honestly, the ads are not as bad as they used to be. Like, Tubi you used to get, like, an ad every maybe 5 minutes, and now I'll get, like, 3 per movie, if that. Like, I don't
Sometimes I get more, but I still don't care. Like, I grew up on cable. Right.
Everybody has such a short attention span because of that brief period where streamers didn't have ads. Mm-hmm. We were kind of spoiled by that. But yeah, I'll take Tubi all day, every day over anybody else. And I love that, you're able to find those obscure titles and also support filmmakers in a way that you're not really doing when you're paying $30 a month for Netflix.
No. Because especially even if I got onto Netflix, all Netflix does is pay like a very low flat rate for several years, and it's usually less than what I could make on Tubi. Not on every title, but on most titles. Yeah, it's just There's a reason why all these streamers are having ads now. It was a race to the bottom, hoping that the other ones would go out of business so that like the top one or two would then have all the power. But they just kept on throwing money into it. And now they all have ads, which I get. But that's why Tubi's great, because they just win ads at the start, so they've never lost money. They have a lower barrier of entry, which I think is great, because it's more like a local mom and pop video store. You got the new Spider-Man movie right next to my schlock, which is awesome. And since there isn't a paid subscription at all, that means it's more consistent in who they deliver the ads to, so they can sell the ads for a higher amount. And then the people that are paying, like when you pay a higher amount on streaming, they usually make less money compared to how much they can get from the ads. So Tubi did it right from the start, and that way they don't have to backtrack, and they can maintain how much they pay us and how much they charge the advertisers.
Sorry, I was pressing the wrong button to unmute there, and the baby was getting kind of loud for a second. So I wanted to ask about CarousHELL. I not only is it in my opinion, like a unique film, and you've turned it into a franchise. You have a fourth one that you're working on, and your recent video that you did like tickled me when you had announced that you were making some changes, and you kind of made it sound like online haters would be happy that you didn't reach your goal, and then you're like, I'm making it anyway. Was I actually woke him up laughing at that when I had saw it on Facebook. But I want to ask kind of like, what was the genesis of the original, the screenplay that you decided that you were going to do for it?
Well, the genesis actually came from Aline Isley. I always credit Aline Isley as being the creator of CarousHELL. I'm more like the stepdad, or the dad that stepped up, if you will, of CarousHELL. But no, she had the original idea because she used to work at an amusement park, Cedar Point specifically, and she loved the rides, and she learned all about the rides because she's always been a ride nerd, and she just always watched the kids beat the crap out of these rides and not respect them, and that always annoyed her. Even when she was a teen working at this park, like she named every single horse on the carousel in Cedar Point and hated the kids abusing the horses. So one day she came to me, just super excited, saying, I have an idea for a movie. I hear that 1,000 goddamn times a year, so I rolled my eyes immediately. But then she said, we should make a movie called CarousHELL, and it's about a killer carousel horse. Wait, no, killer carousel unicorn. And I was immediately in, because that's a fun idea. Love killer object movies, and great title. You need a title when you're a no-budget indie film. And most people, when they have an idea, they don't have any of that. So she was already 1,000 steps ahead, and I asked her, okay, but why is the unicorn killing? That is what I need to know. Answer me that. And she thought for a moment and said, annoying kid abuses the unicorn on the ride and like whips boogers in his eyes and stuff, so the horse wants to kill him. And I'm like, okay, it's a revenge story. And we're going to basically portray the villain as the protagonist. Got it. We're in. And then from there, we developed the story together. And she always says, like, when it comes to the script writing, just the per word, it's kind of like a 70-30. Like most of the basis of the specific page by page is me, but we work on the overall plot together before I get to the script writing. We decide the characters before I write the script, and then we go through it together, and she has a bunch of suggestions and changes and makes the script 100 times better. They would not be as good, anywhere near as good, without her 30. It would be more like 10% good. So the genesis came from her, but when we developed it, we knew we wanted to do a trilogy. We knew that I knew I wanted part 2 to be like an homage to Puppet Master 3. Like we knew going into it that Nazis created Duke and that he was going to be killing Nazis in the sequel. When we were on the set shooting CarousHELL 1, we were already saying like, okay, so he's having this kid in the first movie, and that's the tease in the mid-credits scene. So the second movie is about him being a dad. And it's about him learning to be a good father and a good person to redeem himself. And we knew 3 was going to be about the cycle of revenge, how it poisons you, and also consequences. Consequences don't go away. but we didn't have the story for 3. We didn't come up with that until after 2 came out. Funny enough, we actually came up for the plot of CarousHELL 4 before we came up for the plot of CarousHELL 3. Because we came up for the plot of CarousHELL 4, we were on set shooting CarousHELL 2. And we were just like shooting the shit over lunch. And Aline and I had this great idea that we're going to be doing, where Robbie finds the Neko Meownicon from a Meowy Halloween and brings back a bunch of people Duke killed as super, demon zombies. But then after CarousHELL 2 came out is when CarousHELL 3 found its identity. Because like the original things we were toying with was Duke fighting like 5 objects, like a Super Sentai Power Rangers team of objects, just to have more things to fight, and it would look silly and dumb, but it didn't fit the theme. We didn't know how it would fit the theme that we wanted to tell, to complete Duke's character arc that we wanted to tell over these 3 films. And it was actually because of the fans, and it's the first time I've changed something because of the fans. 5 straight years after CarousHELL 1, before CarousHELL 2, no one would shut the fuck up about Joe being alive. You gotta bring Joe back. Joe's gotta come back. Joe was supposed to be dead, but the fan demand was there, so I said, okay, I'm bringing Joe back because that makes sense for consequences. Now he's going for revenge. This is perfect. This is perfect for the themes. Sorry, guys, I'm bringing Joe back as an insane person now. He's no longer the Joe you liked. I'm still gonna do it my way, but I will bring Joe back for you. But now he's the Ben Affleck Batman. He's not a happy-go-lucky feller anymore.
I know. So, question might be a little bit backtracking here, but how did you get your wife involved in these films? Was it just like naturally she wanted to be in them, or did it take convincing?
We're both entertainers. We met because of Everyone Must Die. She auditioned for that film. She got the role before we had sex. That's very important to establish.
Okay, should I put a disclaimer?
Yeah. It was not a casting couch situation. I and the co-writer of Everyone Must Die, like, we watched all the auditions. We both agreed she was the best. And then as her and I just started talking to each other, we realized we had a lot in common. We really liked each other. We liked a lot of the same things, a lot of the same sense of humor. But for the longest time, neither one of us wanted to say anything because I don't want to be a creeper. I've never done that sort of thing in my authority position. Big air quotes if you're listening to this just audio-wise, because I'm an indie nobody. But other indie nobodies do abuse their little power that they have and exploit women, and I'm not cool with that. So I didn't want to do anything, because, like, I'm her boss. That's weird to me. And she didn't want to do anything because she was my employee, and so she didn't want it to come off as just like, oh, I'm trying to get a bigger part or something. And so for the longest time, we just kept both dancing around it until just one day I kind of said, one day I'm going to be dead. So let's just hang out and see what happens, and the rest is history. So she's always been into performing. I've always been into performing. And I think that's the best sort of relationship because we both understand everything. So long as there's no jealousy there. So long as there's no insecurity. If you're secure in your own success and who you are, I think it's the perfect relationship for 2 entertainers to be together. Because when she's got to be gone for weeks on end because she's doing a musical and she's got to do rehearsals, then tech, and then the show, I'm a little lonely, but I get it. Similarly, when I used to work for Marvel Live and I had to, like, leave town for days or even weeks at a time to be Spider-Man for an arena show or a zoo appearance or something, she understood. Because now I was performing. And now she started directing herself, so now she's going into the shoes of doing all the stuff that I usually deal with, and it's really nice to see her get to do that part, and I can just sit back and relax as just the guy that shot the movie, and it's very pleasant. I might retire from directing unless I get hired, because it was much nicer to not have to worry about that and still have a movie to sell at conventions.
Can you talk a little bit about playing Spider-Man for Marvel Live? That, to me, is super interesting. Like, how did you get that gig?
Originally, I got it because of her. Her uncle ran the Shrine Circus in Pittsburgh for the longest time. And they always would do, like, a superhero part of the show because kids didn't care as much about clowns, but they cared about Spider-Man or Batman. So he did a Marvel arena show one year, and one of the actors couldn't make it, so Marvel said, you can hire a local guy to be the Green Goblin. You know, like, we'll send our guys for the heroes, but you can hire a Green Goblin. He knew I acted and performed, asked if I wanted to do it. I said absolutely. And when I did it, the Marvel guys really liked me. and thought that I did a really good job and I was really charming, and they were looking for a new guy anyway, especially for Spider-Man. So they said, "Oh, I'll give, Marvel, because this was Marvel Live. This is official. This wasn't some happy birthday party thing. This was Marvel. Um, we'll give Marvel your contact info." And I went, yeah, sure, whatever, because you hear that a dozen times a month in this business, and nothing ever happens. But I heard from Marvel, did the audition, and I became their official Spider-Man. I did Captain America and Iron Man a couple times each, but I was Spider-Man from 2013 until the end of last year. The end of 2 years ago. Oh my God. I think the end of 2024 is when Marvel finally got shut down by Disney, where they just killed the license. They didn't want to do it anymore. Between the lower demand because the movies aren't as popular, and people not needing reasons to leave their house as much after the whole COVID thing happened. And just, I think they want people to go to Disneyland. If you want to meet Spider-Man, you got to come to the park. I think that's what it is. I think that was the biggest factor. But yeah, so I mostly did just appearances. Sometimes it was a zoo, sometimes it was a children's science center, sometimes very often it was a sporting event, whether it was baseball or hockey or whatever, but it's usually like a local team, like the Cincinnati Cyclones as opposed to the Pittsburgh Penguins or what have you. But we also did like actual stage shows and actual arena shows from time to time as well. And that was always fun because it was just me getting to be a pro wrestler. Especially because after a few years, the old guard kind of left over time just because of their age or whatever. And I rose into the role of actually being allowed to write the stage shows and edit the audio for it. Because we just did pre-recorded audio so no one had to worry about their lines or being out of breath from all of the wrestling stunts that we had to do. And so that was always fun because as soon as I took over the writing, all the clients were losing their minds because I took all of my pro wrestling inspiration and put all of that into the face and the heel work. Like, before I wrote, the Green Goblin would come out being like, "Oh, Pittsburgh, you guys are dumb. I'm here to beat up Spider-Man." And that was it. When I started writing, the Green Goblin said, "Oh, Pittsburgh, I thought the Steelers were the biggest losers I've ever seen until I looked at your fat butts." And like deafening boos. Just the easiest bottom tier, bottom level heel crap, but it works for a reason. And the clients would just be like, "I've never heard them be this loud." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." But the last show I actually did for the Shrine Circus was great because it was like 2 years back to back, so we actually had continuity. So the 1 year I actually had it be Harry Osborn as the Goblin. It was about saving him and bringing him back to being my friend. So that year's theme for the kids was about friendship, and just because your friend does something bad doesn't mean they aren't your friend anymore. Then the next year it was Norman, furious that I made Harry a good guy again. And he actually beats Spider-Man at the halfway point, which we had never done before. So children were in tears. Thousands of children crying as Spider-Man gets beaten and then dragged by the ankle as a corpse by the Green Goblin. And then I come back and I save the day. But, man, I miss that stuff. But now I can eat more cookies.
You're hitting on here because both Drew and I are huge fans of pro wrestling, and I think a lot of our listeners are too. And so you were actually in a ring doing this?
Oh no! So the arena shows, we would either be like on a wooden stage or like it would be an ice arena with wood on top of ice. But we were doing body slams. We were doing like flip. We were taking bumps. Like I did a spine buster a few times to the Green Goblin. The final thing that we
wood. Oof.
Oh yeah. Like I used to get a lot of bruises because we were taking those sorts of bumps on wood, on just hard wood with no cushioning. The final thing that I did for the Shrine Circus was actually that Goblin Spider-Man thing, and we literally did Okada versus Omega in terms of styles.
Man,
so like when Green Goblin beats me, I take a Rainmaker and I sold the hell out of that. Yes. Like I literally I don't even know how I did it. I couldn't do it again because I tried doing it again for a Meowy Christmas Vacation, which was in a ring, and then CarousHELL 3 also was in a ring, which was much softer and nicer to fall on. But when I did the Spider-Man one, I took it and like I was on my head and shoulder vertically for like a full several moments before I just fell back down. And I don't know how I held it. Best sell I've ever done on that Rainmaker. One of the best I've ever seen, if I
Awesome.
may say so.
Yeah, that your neck will never be the same from that, but yeah, it was awesome.
When I took out the goblin, I did say goodbye and good night, and then I said thwip instead of bang.
This is the connections here between this interview and like the wrestling fans we have, and like just between Drew and I, this is insane. Like people are gonna eat this up. That's awesome.
I don't know if you're familiar with PWX out of McKeesport.
Yeah, that's where I wrestled for Meowy Christmas Vacation. We rented their location.
Oh shit! Okay.
I trained there. I used to be a professional wrestler. I trained there. He took me to my tryout because I didn't know how to get to McKeesport, and so we're very in tune. We've done some interviews. We have one of the IWC refs.
We had Cato, an IWC ref. We had one more too, the promoter. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name right now.
Jim.
Some Jim of somebody.
You're thinking of Dog Pro Wrestling.
Dog Pro Wrestling. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
So we feature pro wrestling a lot
because the PWX promoter, he was Jim Miller, right? The guy that used to be in NWA.
Yeah, and so when I was there, I was training under. So Cato was not an official trainer, but he was kind of a guy that came and helped, and we had Crusher and oh man, I'm spacing.
The dude K. that was in. Yeah.
So Brendan
he was
K.
and he did stuff for TNA, right?
I'm not entirely sure. He started Rise Pro Wrestling out of I want to say Connellsville.
Yeah, I think
Connellsville, something like that.
Yeah, because PB Smooth, who's in CarousHELL 3 and Shingles the movie, I don't know if started with Rise is the correct word, but he was their grand champion for a long time, and now he's in NWA.
Yeah. So I had no idea that you were into wrestling. That's like cool. We at some point we're gonna do a pro wrestling game show on here. I mean, might be something to maybe reach out for. But we're kind of hitting that 45-minute mark.
Oh yeah, jeez.
It's quick.
Sorry, I'm charming.
Yeah.
Hey, one of us has to be.
So. Yeah, it's not going to be me.
No, we all know that.
Hey, so we'll give you. I know you promoted it at the beginning of the show, but if right now, give us everything you got. Give us links. Give us any movies coming up. Any interviews you're doing besides ours. Any appearances. Anything you got. Go ahead.
Sure. I mean, I'll say the links again real quick. Again, physical store, silverspotlightfilms.com. Almost everything is on DVD. Everything is on Blu-ray. I'm finally starting to sell a lot less DVDs, so I have to be more particular with what gets a DVD release. If you care about physical media and you don't own a Blu-ray player, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this is my line in the sand. I don't care what anyone says. I lose my mind at this. If you don't do physical media, whatever, that's its own thing. But if you care about it and you don't have the technology that can play the stuff from 20 years ago, this isn't new. It's here. It's established. And it still plays DVDs. Please get a DVD player. I'm sorry, a Blu-ray player. God.
Again, any Xbox or PlayStation can play those.
Like that's how I watch my 4K Blu-rays is my PS5, and now I love 4K Blu-rays, and apparently I could get an even better 4K player, but I'll worry about that when I get an even better TV.
Yeah, sorry, that was me. I accidentally hit. I went to mute my mic, and I accidentally stopped the stream, but you're good. Keep going.
Okay. Again, my Patreon is stevebuster.com. $3 a month for just the movies and a couple exclusives. $5 for all the bonus features, and also Discord access. If you care about Discord, the Silver Spotlight channel, we have a lot of fun in there. It's not always super active, but it's never died, and that's a big deal to me. And again, most of my stuff is on Tubi. So what should you watch? That's the question. I think it just comes down to what you're into. I said it earlier in the episode. I genuinely think that Curtains for Christmas is probably my best film that I've made. But that's also a lot of bias when it comes to how much I love Christmas, how much I love the tropes of Hallmark rom-coms, because the first act of that movie is almost straight Hallmark rom-com. I've had to say to horror gorehounds, like, hang in there, trust me. You know, we get pretty brutal later in the film. It's the meanest movie that I've made, really. No, second meanest. But like, I usually don't get as dark as I do in Curtains for Christmas, and a lot of people don't see that coming because of all of my other films, even though they're also full of blood and gristle and gore. The CarousHELL trilogy, soon to be a quadrilogy. A lot of folks like that. Again, it's a killer object movie, very silly, very over the top, very live action cartoon where I just do whatever I want. But I also, in my opinion, tried to tell a very real story and character arc over the course of the series. There are emotional beats that happen when you're watching all the movies in order. More than one person has told me that they started tearing up or even cried because of stuff happening in the later films. And that usually doesn't happen with tiny, dumb, micro-budget movies, so I'm proud of that. And if you want something more PG, more family-friendly, kid-friendly, kids do really enjoy my Talking Cat movies. The Meowy films are a blast. They're a lot cheaper. The first one, especially, is a little bit rougher than my other stuff because I didn't know where it was going to go after that. But A Meowy Halloween is a fun PG horror movie. St. Patrick's Day and Christmas Vacation are combined as just one movie on Tubi because I had to make it a feature. So that's called just A Meowy Christmas Vacation. And that leads into Amityville Christmas Vacation. So if you want to watch the best Amityville, you only have to watch mine. Sorry to all the other ones, including the original, but mine's the best. And I just, the latest one that I released was Wally Meets Popeye, which is Wally Griswold meeting Popeye, and it's the only Popeye movie that came out in 2025 that is appropriate for children and has Popeye be the hero fighting a monster, and it is, again, like a live-action cartoon. And it's a lot of fun. A lot of people, it hasn't taken off like Amityville because clearly there's not a lot of people watching every Popeye movie like there are people that watch every Amityville movie.
Right.
But I do think it's the best movie that I made for $1,000 or less. I do think it is the peak of my smallest budgets. It's a lot of fun. I'm very proud of it. And of course, the newest Silver Spotlight Films release though is I Scream: A Minty Musical, which was co-written by myself and Aline Isley, and Aline Isley directed it. It is a kind of PG-13 level. It's not really horror. It's more just like a sci-fi schlock film. It's an homage to those 50s sci-fi sorts of movies. Takes more inspiration from the original Blob rather than the remake Blob.
Yeah.
But it's about mutant killer mint chocolate chip ice cream eating people in this town. But it's also a musical, and it's a really fun musical.
Dude, that is so up my alley. I'm actually ashamed that I haven't seen that yet. So that's going to be the first thing that I check out when we get off air.
Well, that one, I will say, that one just came out. It's not going to be on Steve Buster until May. You can only buy it physically because we were holding off to put in digital releases until.
Well, here's my
Cinema
money.
Wasteland. Oh, it is on. Oh yeah. Order a copy. But I was going to say it is actually on a streaming service called Fossum. If you wanted to check it out first.
Fossum. FOSSUM.
No, like the word awesome, but with an F in front
Fossum.
of it.
Okay, I was going for a possum. Yeah, okay.
That's fair. It's not a great streaming service. I wouldn't use it normally, regularly, but they might get better over time. But they did pick up Ice Cream, so if you want to check it out, it's a fun flick. And we are in pre-production for CarousHELL 4 right now. And it is going to be a very bloody, very fun film. It's going to depend on how the movie does, whether it's an epilogue to the trilogy, or a new beginning. We will see. But it's a story that we care about. It's a story, again, we came up with it 5 years ago, and we think it really makes sense for the next chapter. Even if it so happens to be the last one, it would still really work on its own, because we put a lot of focus on Robbie in this story. Not taking anything away from Duke. Duke is still in the driver's seat of this mayhem, but it's a lot about Robbie, and it's about growing up and learning that change is okay, and saying goodbye to the things you love is part of life. And we have a lot of heartwarming moments in between Duke ripping off jaws and throwing chainsaws into people's chests.
It sounds like you've, and everybody else involved in the project, has put a lot of thought and emotion behind these. And sometimes you don't get that with some of the, forgive my lack of a better term, but lower budget films, because sometimes people will just make, here's a slasher with a bunch of fake blood. Okay, I've seen that a million times, but it sounds like what you're doing is a lot different with all of your movies. And
thank you.
I think that everybody listening should absolutely check those out. And I have one question for you. Are you wearing a Tom Green shirt?
It's a Nightmare on Elm Street 8, Freddy's Fingers.
Is that not Tom Green?
Yeah, Freddy's
Yeah.
Fingers.
Oh, Frank. Oh, gotcha. Freddy's fingered. Yeah. I've been wondering that the whole time because, like, from my view, you're a little bit cut off because I have the thing down at the bottom, so like I can only see half your shirt. And I was like, "That's Tom. That's Tom Green." And it's definitely
this is one
Tom
of the Joe
Green.
Garcia shirt. He does a lot of really great stuff. He did a Meowy Halloween shirt for me. But yeah, I care a lot about story. I care a lot about lore, and I care a lot about genuine, just emotions, because that's what art should be. It's about inducing an emotion, whatever that emotion is, and it's valid. I think all movies are art. I'm not one of those people that puts art on a plateau, but that's kind of the side effect of Xenogears being my favorite game of all time, is that storytelling and that level of lore and deep care and attention to detail that I saw at 11 years old. It's up here forever now. And especially since Tetsuya Takahashi has been going crazy ever since with the Xenosaga and then Xenoblade, and now it's all connected, and this is just his wild ride. That's what I look up to. That level of just creative insanity of doing whatever you want and still doing it good every time. There's always a ranking. I have a ranking of my own stories, but I always try really hard to like look at something and be like, okay, what am I trying to say? What am I trying to tell the world, or at least the people watching this, while also trying to make them laugh, because I do care about that a lot too. But I do try to put more layers, more depth, because I think that's what gets people to keep coming back. Like you said, and I won't ever say names, but there's a lot of other indie guys like me that also care about story and like depth. But there's also a lot of indie guys that are like, remember Friday the 13th? Well, now I'm making Friday the 13th of my own, and like that's as far as they think about it. And there can be more. Like, if at the end of the day, my biggest point with micro budget filmmaking, indie filmmaking, low budget filmmaking outside of a studio system is that we don't have executives, we don't have bosses unless you have a financer, but even then that's a different kind of boss than an executive in a studio. And we don't have things like market test groups. We have the freedom to actually do things differently. We have the freedom to tell a serious, heart-wrenching story about an inanimate killer carousel unicorn. And if you're not taking advantage of that freedom, what the hell are you even doing, man?
Absolutely. You know, since the inception of this podcast, we've probably interviewed, I don't know, Drew, what do you, probably 60
over 2 people.
Yeah, it's been at least 2 people. You're 3. And this has been one of the most engaging conversations that we've had, honestly. And it's covered so much stuff. Like, I come into this, I do a tech podcast on the side. So when you talk video games, you talk retro technology, boom, my head lights up instantly. So hearing that about the video games and how it's tied into like your life and like the way that you make movies is so awesome, man.
Well,
to me, like I super nerd out about that stuff, and I know Drew also nerds out about that stuff too. So Steve, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's we really appreciate it. This has been one of the best interviews that we've had on here, and hopefully we can reconnect in the future once the new movie is released, and maybe we can connect and talk about it then.
Thank you so much. And just to touch on real quick what you just brought up with like how video games affect my storytelling and stuff, I do also think it's really important, whatever your creative genre is, whatever the genre you focus on the most, it is so infinitely important to get inspired by so many things outside of that genre. If you're a horror filmmaker that's only inspired by a horror, then you're at risk of just doing a lot of the same stuff people have seen. But if you are inspired by other things, whatever those are, for me, it's Christmas movies, Christmas rom-coms, earnest movies, silly slapstick stuff. But, look at a filmmaker significantly better than me, infinitely better than me, like Sam Raimi. He has jokingly said that he doesn't like horror in interviews more than once. And when he was making even the first Evil Dead, he was inspired by things like The Three Stooges more than, say, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or other exorcism movies or demon movies. Like, the reason why Sam is so strong as a filmmaker is the inspiration he pulls from so many different things that just puts him into this like perfect stew. The internet hates him, but I always like say Zack Snyder is similar in the sense that like he has so many different genres and so many different source materials that he's pulling from, to the point where like people think he's this huge Ayn Rand fanboy. He's like, no, I just took like this theme because I thought it worked for this story. He's otherwise like the most liberal, like nothing burger political guy that always puts stories and characters that Ayn Rand would hate into his films, but he takes inspiration from that, and that's what I think creators should do more often.
Absolutely. Final words, Drew.
No, man, I just super appreciate that you came on, and again, to reiterate that this was a fun one. Maybe we can bro out about movies at the Vinegar Syndrome store sometime.
Maybe. You gotta make it out to Cinema Wasteland. That's in Cleveland. You gotta make it out to Gross Fest. That's in Pittsburgh.
Wait, I've never even heard of Cinema Wasteland. How am I even
insane.
alive?
It's like one of the. It's probably the biggest convention that's still in a hotel in the country.
No, Cinema Wasteland. We were gonna hang out with Frank Farrell there last year.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
It's in Strongsville, April 10th, 11th, and 12th of this year. Yeah, okay.
We're not
I'll
booked
be
at
there.
this year's Gross Fest, but we might be at next year's actually. We're starting to do the convention scene, and I was talking to what's his name, Tim Gross.
Yeah, Tim Gross. There's Tim Gross and there's Tom Gross.
Yeah, one of the brothers. I don't remember which one.
We don't talk about Tam Gross.
But yeah. Everybody, check out the movies. He doesn't need my endorsement, but has my glowing endorsement, and you can see we don't have a ticker
all the links. Yeah, we have the ticker. The links will be in the video as always, and in our posts and everything. Make sure you check it out. Give some love. Get these movies. Watch them. Do whatever. Just
hey, this is Steve Rudzinski. If you don't watch the CarousHELL trilogy, fuck you.
Boom.
End it there.
That's all. The end. And here's the outro.